Hey everybody, this is Jim with my 2006 Yamaha Morphous CP250 Scooter. Today I'm going to do a detailed video on how to change the oil and the oil filter. I use, basically this is what we need. I like synthetic oil. It's a new bike. If you're changing oil on an old bike or an old car and you never used synthetic, if it's 30 years old, 20 years old, and you've always used conventional oil, then it's a good thing to stick with conventional, or maybe you can get away with a blend. But this is a newer bike, even though it's 10 years old, so I like to use synthetic oil. Oil filter, and it also has a spring. I don't know, I got two. I guess they just threw two in, and there's a couple of O-rings that you have to, they're cheap enough, so I just ordered all of them. So this is basically what you need. And if you have an owner's manual, I suggest that. It's always good. I mean, it's 6-16, section 6-16 for your oil change. So, of course, before you change the oil, warm it up a few minutes, get the oil warm, and then drain it. Warm it up for a minute or two, a few minutes just to get it warm. Shut it down, and then drain the oil with the oil filter, with the oil from the oil bolt, which we'll show you where that is. Okay, so if you have a user's manual, it's always good to have one. It's a good guide. Anyway, I use synthetic oil. Why not? The stuff is indestructible. Mobile 1. I use 10W30. I live in New Jersey, so we have all different winters and so forth. But the stuff's indestructible. Suggest your oil filter, and it comes with the compression springs. It doesn't come with it, actually. You can use your old one. They're cheap enough. I suggest getting new ones. And there's a couple of O-rings that were in the diagram that they were just a couple of bucks, so I figured let me get them if I need them. O-rings, it's just so cheap. Why not? You might as well. Okay, so your bolt to drain your oil and your oil filter will be on your left side of the scooter on the bottom. And let's get down here. We'll get it nice and focused in. Okay, so there's your oil filter. You need to unscrew those 3 screws, and this here is the bolt you use to empty your oil. So let's empty the oil first, and then we'll do the filter. Okay, so here we are. That's your bolt right there to drain your oil, and it is a 12mm socket. So we already saved some time. We already cracked it, and let's drain some oil. Again, I changed the oil about 1.5 years ago, and it's dirty. Synthetic oil, the stuff is really indestructible, but it's good to change. It's easy enough, right? So let's let that drain out. I just let it warm up. Actually, I went out to the store. I had to get something, so it was pretty warm, but I still warmed it up for a minute or two. Just get the juices flowing. So let's let that drain, and then we'll get to the oil filter. Okay, so before we get to the soup and nuts, the actual guts of doing it, let's just go over it real quick what it says here. If you're doing an oil filter and oil change and oil filter, you need your oil filter, a compression spring which goes behind the cover, and then you have your oil. Then you have your O-ring that goes behind the cover, and then you have that tiny O-ring that goes inside. There's a little nipple, I guess, inside there. There's your 2 O-rings and your oil filter. I pre-lubed the O-rings with oil before putting the new ones in. Okay, here is your oil filter case. you need an 8mm socket to get that out. Now, I have my oil drain thing over here off camera. No room under here for it because of the center stand. If I put the kickstand, the side stand down, it gets in the way. So I put a whole bunch of newspaper under here. I'm sure some oil is going to come out, but I put like several layers of newspaper for whatever oil is going to come out. So hopefully it won't be a lot. So, all right, so let's go take a look. Let's loosen the oil filter case and remove the oil filter and O-rings and compression spring. Make sure you don't forget about the compression spring. Compression spring, oil filter, O-rings, two, large and small. Okay, so let me catch it on camera. There is a little room. There is plenty obvious. I mean, I knew there was going to be oil coming out, obviously. So the minute I loosened the one screw, it poured out all over the newspaper. I managed to get the collection basin under there. These are tiny screws, so make sure you don't lose them. I don't know how long they are. This is the first time actually I've changed the oil filter. And then we get the one on top. And that should pop off because of the compression spring. And I'm sure we're going to get a little deluge of oil. All right. It's a lot easier if you have a lift. I don't. I'm just doing this in my garage. I'm sure, sure a bike mechanic would have probably did 3 of these already. Okay. Okay, so right in there, that looks like it's a lot of fun. Is there a little O-ring? So won't be able to. Let's take a look and see how difficult that is to get. You're gonna have to use a tweezer or needle nose pliers probably, or let's see if I can get my fingers in there. But that's where that other smaller O-ring is. Okay, so I got that O-ring out. Basically, let me get under here with the flashlight so you can see. What a pain, huh? Where are we here? Okay, right in there. I just put my finger in there, right in the center, and just rolled it off and fell down. There's nowhere for it to go. It just fell right into the trap thing here. So it just comes, just peel, roll it right off with your finger. Where are we here? Okay, there we go, I'm sorry. Okay, so right in the center there, that's where your O-ring, the smaller O-ring goes. Make sure you put that back on. Change it, it's very easy. It's a little tight, so, but just roll that off and then roll the new one back on. It's plenty of oil in there, so you don't even have to pre-lube the smaller O-ring. Okay, I know we're on a little awkward angle here. Anyway, so that O-ring, I replaced the new one. It just slides over the shaft. It doesn't snap into anything. Just roll it forward to the end of the little shaft there, and that's it. But before you put the oil filter back in, make sure that O-ring is there, because it might slip off and fall. So just make sure right before you put the oil filter in there that that little O-ring didn't work its way off. So not too difficult. So just take your time. Okay, next thing, you have your oil filter cover. I'm going to take the old compression spring out. Just loosen it off, and needle nose or whatever, that's the old O-ring, and we're going to replace it with the new O-ring. When you order your filter, get the O-rings and the compression spring. They're only a couple of bucks. It doesn't make sense to do this work and leave and have an O-ring fail on you. It just doesn't make sense. So change your O-rings. Let's clean this all up. Okay, so here we are. We're all cleaned up. O-ring pops right out. You can see these little lips. They're like the little lips on either end here. Bottom, we'll make it 9 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and 6 o'clock. Those little lips, oil, O-ring kind of gets snapped into there. Very easy. Very important, clean this very well. Make sure there's nothing, any dirt, anything kind of, any foreign matter. Clean this really well, and just we'll give it a, I mean, it's already got a nice coat of oil on it. And of course, the new spring just kind of, it doesn't screw in, it just snaps in place. Make sure it's seated right. Make sure it looks right. And of course, we got the oil filter. Doesn't have any kind of a seal that you have to pre-oil. So this is the end. This should be facing out. We'll show that in a minute. And this is where it meets that O-ring. Okay, so checklist before we put the oil filter in. Make sure the O-ring's in. This is nice and clean. Make sure your compression spring is snapped in. It doesn't really snap, but make sure it's seated properly. Make sure your oil filter is ready to go. This will be facing you. This will be going into the oil, into the crankcase, and then you have your 3 bolts here. Okay, so here we go. We got the oil filter, it just slides in. I made sure that O-ring was in there. Slide that in. Got your case and your 3 screws. And let me check the book. Okay, so the oil filter cover does have a torque setting, 7.2 foot-pounds. So make sure you torque those bolts down, 7.2 foot-pounds. And this will be on page 6-18 of your user manual. And then next will be make sure your O-rings are in, which they are. And then we have to put the oil engine crankcase drain bolt in, and that's 14.5 foot-pounds of torque. Make sure that the oil crankcase bolt, drain bolt, is clean, and that the washer is clean and seated properly before you put it back in. Okay, so here we are. We got the oil filter back in. Spring was in. 7.2 foot-pounds of torque for those 3 bolts. And then the drain bolt. Make sure it's clean. Screw it in slowly. 14.5, I believe it was 14.2, 14.5 foot-pounds of torque for that bolt. Now let's go and put the fresh synthetic 10W30 oil in the crankcase and start her up. Okay, to access the oil filler and oil checker, on the right hand side you have your coverings. Just pop them off, and you have your cover here. Just snap it, comes right off, and right down there is your oil filler neck. That's where you replace your oil with a funnel, and it's also where you check your oil level. And let's go and see how much oil we put in when you replace the filter and oil. And remember, if you don't change your filter, just the oil, you put a little less oil in it. But let's go and take a look at the user manual. Okay, so here we are. Without the oil filter element replacement, if you're just changing the oil only, it's about 1.6 US quarts. And with the oil filter change, which we did, will be 1.8 US quarts. So just under 2 quarts of oil. Again, I'm using Mobil 1 10W30 full synthetic oil. Why not? It's the best stuff, and it's indestructible. It really is good stuff. Okay, so your toolkit under your seat, if you come to a cool toolkit, has this combination wrench for your spark plug Also has a little notch on the side. This is for loosening the oil drain. The little slot here. It's for loosening your dipstick cover. Okay, so we're loose here. Take it right out. And again, this is a combination, and this is how you check your oil once you, if you want to check your oil periodically, same thing. And when you put it back in, you tighten it with that tool. But this is where we're gonna, with a funnel, put the oil in. Again, it's on the right side of the scooter. Let's go back here. Right side in the rear, underneath the foot covers for the passenger. Okay, get yourself a nice funnel, something slender, like make it easy on yourself so you don't make a mess. And it's a pretty narrow opening there, so I suggest you get a good thin, easy access funnel. Let's put some oil in it. Okay, again, got Mobile 10W30 synthetic. So we're going to use a whole and then about 80%, 1.8, so just under 2 quarts of oil for a full oil change with filter. Take your time, make sure when you're pouring it in, it's not going all over the floor. Hopefully you won't lose any out of where your oil filter O-ring is and your crankcase bolt. I'm pretty confident that they're tight, so nothing coming out the bottom. That's good. Let's get the rest of this in there. You don't have to use synthetic oil, you can use conventional, but why not? Synthetic is far superior. It's really for the price, it's superior to conventional oil. Okay. All right, so we got measurements on the side. So we're going to put 1.8. So that's 800. 400 will be 1.5. So we'll put about let's check it. It's always good to be careful, conservative, and double check. Okay, I'm going to slightly start it just to get it run through a little bit, just slightly, and then we'll check it and see. I know we're going to have to top it off a little bit. I put the cover, I put the dipstick back in. I'm just gonna give it a second or two. I'm not going to really wind her up. Give it a second for the oil. Not much, it's a little engine. Give it a little second. Get through the oil filter, so forth, and then we'll double check it. And then we're also going to go check, make sure there's nothing leaking out where the filter and drain plug is, which shouldn't. Okay, I'm going to put this up on the center stand now. I had it on the side stand. You want to check it on a level surface with the side stand up and the center stand. You want it up on the center stand to check your oil. Okay, I don't see any oil under here. That's good. Let's go and check the level. Okay, so we checked it. We ran a little bit. We checked it, and I did put a little more in. I know it really shows up here. It's hard to. Let's get a little close up. It's hard to tell because it's new, but there you go. As long as we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we got 8, 9 out of 10. Is 9 X's in a little slash there. So I could put a little bit more, but you don't want to overfill it. This is synthetic, so, but we're good. We're good to go. So let's start it up and warm it up for a minute or two, and we'll give it one last check. Okay, so I hope this oil filter, oil change tutorial helps out. That was pretty easy, and no leaks. We'll let her run for a while. No leaks. Check underneath there. I feel that you can see no drips. Give it a good visual check under here where your oil filter is and your drain bolt. They're good. Feel it. Make sure there's no seepage. Let it run for a while. Get it to operating temperature, and double check the dipstick one last time, and you're good to go. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it helped out. Again, this is the full oil change oil filter for 2006 2008 Yamaha CP250 Morphous Scooter. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out my other videos. I have a couple of videos on my scooter here. So thanks for watching. Have a great week.